Hello and welcome. What was to be Movie Madness Spotlight has now been reformatted. Same underlying concept. We're going to still shine a spotlight on movies that I personally love and that fellow members of the network also love. However, after very little brainstorming and discussion with Big Daddy Stones, Masterpiece Movie Theater was brought into light. And this show shall be known as that forevermore. Now, in the 1980s, after movies like The Road Warrior came out, post-apocalyptic movies became, well, somewhat of a specialty in the 80s and the 90s. And some still go today, but let's be honest, they're not as good as they were back then. Now, out of all the ones that came out, I mean, you could say something like, Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior is maybe the ultimate classic in post-apocalyptic. But however, in 1986, director Alan Johnson and writers Wallen Green and D.A. Metroff took a stab with a movie called Solarbabies. Or, as some of you may remember, a cover or a poster looking like this. Now, instead of taking a grizzled cop or an army, instead they took a stab at it with teenagers. So in this world, the water is controlled by a militant force known as the Eco Protectorate. And one of the things that they run is an orphanage, and where they indoctrinate all of the teenagers. Now, all of the teenagers seem to bunk up differently depending on the thing that they give you. There is maybe the groups that all play this one game, which is where the name Solarbabies comes from, because that's the name of their team. And this game is much like, I would say, it's a form of hockey, lacrosse, and roller derby. Everyone skates around. The goal's in the center. You have to get the ball. You can throw it up to each other. You can play it on the ground. You get into the center. You score. It goes back down. Gets shot back out. It's actually a pretty cool looking game. Now, the Solarbabies, which consist of, and we're going to get to the actors along with this, Jason Patric as Jason, Jamie Gertz as Tara, James LaGrosse as Metron, Claude Brooks as Rabbit, Peter DeLuise as Tug, and Lucas Haas as the youngest member. He's a good deal younger than everybody else. And he also happens to be deaf. When he can hear when he has the use of the headset that he has on. So one day in the yard, the bullies, the ones who are obviously being indoctrinated very well, challenge the Solarbabies, but not on the regular grounds, outside of the limits where they know that they're not supposed to go. Onlooking the game is Daniel, who's not actually playing. And then also, further looking on, is another orphan called Darstar, who you later on find out that he is what they all refer to as a Chicani, which leads the viewer to believe that it's a future type of Native American, So, obviously, the Eco Protectorate security forces show up, and everyone scatters. And while escaping through the mines, that is when Daniel finds a glowing orb that is sentient, and it speaks to him. We don't understand it as the viewer, but you know what the characters are saying when they talk to it in the one-sided conversation. Upon finding it, it actually heals Daniel, and he can hear without it. And you come to find out that this orb is on Earth to help free the water, and it's actually prophesized in the beginning of the movie. So, bringing it back, Bodhi actually makes it rain inside their bunk, and they are all sold that this, well, except for Metra, they're all sold that this orb is obviously very special. However, Darstar thinks it can also help him, and he steals it and escapes the orphanage. Then Daniel can't take the fact that it's been stolen, so then Daniel escapes, and the rest of the Solarbabies go after him. They have to outrun the Eco Protectorate. They manage to get away, and they end up catching up with Daniel, and then all of them catch up with Darstar in a place, kind of a factory town. It's called Tiger Town. There, the Eco Protectorate catches up with them again, and unfortunately this time, Darstar is captured, along with the orb. Terra also goes missing, but Terra is actually captured by her family, which the rest of the Solarbabies end up finding her. They all find each other again, and then they are told where they can go to find Bodai and to find Darstar. So they go, and of course, I mean it's an 80s movie. We know what happens. They get there, they find the orb, they find everybody. The bad guys are taken out, the orb is freed, and it manages to destroy all the machines that overload everything. The dam breaks, a gigantic dam breaks, and all this water is sent rushing out. Upon escaping the facility, and as all the bad guys are perishing or escaping themselves, you see Bodai fly off, but it leaves a part of his essence with the group. There you also see that Darstar is fully accepted into their group, and excuse me, at the very end you see everybody jumping and swimming in the free water, as well as you also see Jason and Terra embracing each other in the water. Again, this movie came out in 1986, and I grew up watching this film, so it's always held a special place in my heart. If you have not seen it and you like my review, which you should definitely get a copy for yourself, check it out, and check out everything else that is on Triple N. Come join me next time as we go over the Monster Squad.